Hi, my name is Enjelique, and I'm an artist. So I was born in New Jersey, but I was raised in Ocala/Miami. I went to Ocala when I was 4, and then we went to Miami when I was 13. A lot of people don't know Ocala because it's like a little town in Florida. It's actually the horse capital of the world. That's the tagline. But Miami is where I went to middle school and high school. So it's something I genuinely feel like I was born with. I really don't remember a time where I wasn't loving music. I was running around with like a toy mic, and then I was like banging on the keys because my dad actually bought my mom an upright piano because she was supposed to take lessons. And I just took to it like a fish to water, and they're like, we should get her some lessons. So then we moved to Ocala. I got lessons from the local teacher, and she was like, she's actually really good. We need to get her some, classical lessons. And I was like, oh, snap. So we did classical training, and I went to a Russian teacher first. And then I went to a Juilliard alumni professor and did the whole 9 yards, the guilds, the federations, the recitals, 10-piece programs, all while like being like a student. So that was, very rigorous, but it taught me discipline, and it taught me perseverance, and it taught me, all the things that you need to build a career today. But that gave me the building blocks. And then when it came to the creativity part of what I do, my dad has this epic like vinyl collection that he had everything from like old school reggae, like Rayvon and Shaggy, to Parliament Funkadelic and Seal and like all these guys. And they really like were soaking in my subconscious because he would play these records all the time. And then my mom had her whole disco collection. And so in the beginning, it was these very like old school funk, R&B, reggae bands that I would be listening to so much. And then we shifted like when I started to be an early teenager into like the 80s. So then we got into Prince and MJ and Tina, Janet. We started into the 90s, Beyonce, and I would watch these tapes on like repeat, like actual just over and over and over. After school, I'd come home, I would watch the tape, and I have so many of these tapes like memorized. One artist in particular, Yanni, he is a new age artist, but I don't like to categorize him as like a new age artist because he does so much, but he's an incredible composer, and he takes these pop-like melodies and he combines it with these orchestral masterpieces, and they were funky, but they had all these world instruments. And so I would also watch that, and a lot of my music is inspired by orchestration because every song I have has some kind of string or it's a very big sound. And so you can literally hear all these influences in my music, from the classical where I'll have violins and like a lot of melodies to funk and all these elements put together. So that in a nutshell is how I got into music. Being raised in Ocala, it's a very small population of Black people, and there was a lot of layers to what built Enjelique, which is, starting as a classical pianist that already puts you in a very small category, and then being one of the only Black people, let alone women, in my school, in the gifted program, put me in another category, and then being a straight A student put me in a category. So, and just being also very extroverted. So it was very isolating in a way. Even though I, was friends with everybody, there was also this level of disconnect where, I was friends with a lot of like this like skater white boys growing up, just because I always wanted to be accepted by the Black culture. And I felt like, at least growing up, and especially in Ocala, there was this this tension that would happen where I would be sitting, with everybody. And then I noticed that a lot of, Black kids would kind of sit to themselves, and I would kind of hear like the whispers, and I would see the looks, and it was really hard because I didn't 100% fit with the white crowd and didn't 100% fit with the Black crowd, and I didn't know where the hell I fit, and I thought me doing so well and excelling would make people like me and make people, gravitate towards me. And I mean, they still did, but it wasn't a full embracing of like who I was. So, and then in high school, especially, like the racism kind of got bad, to the point where, it was really damaging my self-esteem. Like my own close friends were picking on me and yelling racist jokes literally in my face. And, I was already so different with loving like Panic at the Disco and being a skater girl and like all these things. I used to wear like vests to school. So I find that in my music, I really strive to break down those stereotypes and those barriers, because I am very, very proud to be a Black woman, but I absolutely feel that there were impressions put on me without me being able to show who I was. There was already like an idea of like who I was supposed to be. A lot of people, when they hear that I make music, assume it's, R&B, or it's, there's something hip hop. They don't expect a rock girl. They don't expect a Keytar. Like they're not expecting any of these things. So that deeply influences who I am, what my mission is, which is to break these stereotypes, break down these boundaries, also make outcasts and people who don't necessarily fit in a box feel like they can fit in. And so that all stems from my childhood, because if I could have someone like me that I saw growing up being like, oh, she doesn't really fit. And not to say there's plenty. I mean, Tina was a huge inspiration for me. Like she was the queen of rock and roll, and the battle she had to face being a Black woman in that space alone was intense. So seeing her and some others that really broke those barriers, Nina Simone, that's what I strive to be, and my childhood only reinforces that. So 18 is what I credit to be the mark of when I started. I was accepted. I got a scholarship to Berklee College of Music for both voice and piano, but I decided not to because I wanted to pursue my career. There were some opportunities here in New York that were very appealing from, labels and executives and things. But I definitely wasn't ready at the time. And I understand that now. They told me, they were like, come back when you're like 25. And I was like devastated at the time, because I'm like, what do you mean? I'm ready now. But I understand, because the amount of life I've had to live and the amount of songs I've had to write and the depth that needed to happen was real. But 18 is when I would say, although technically my first album was at 13, and my parents put me in the studio, bless their heart, and I printed out all these albums and passed them out in middle school to people. And there's some people out there that still have that album, because they tell me to this day, they're like, look, I still have that album and I fully plan on profiting off of it one day. I'm like, you go, you make that happen. But yeah, 18 is when I started. And it's definitely been it's been a journey, but I genuinely would not change a thing. So this question was funny because someone asked me this, and I never really thought about it because it just was so innate to me, the 80s. I mean, again, my influences are a big part of it. Actually, I grew up with Cats the musical, and that's actually one of my favorite musicals, if not my favorite musical. And there's a lot of 80s, like the leg warmers and the type of music and the leather and all of that. Like, I was so drawn to it, and it genuinely just feels like something that I just happened to match that aesthetic. Again, I did have all these influences, but at the same time, the chokers and the fingerless gloves and like all that just really naturally just came to me. And then the Keytar which is its own story, also happened to just be a vehicle for me because I wanted to be a rock star and I didn't want to be confined to behind the piano. And then the Keytar happened to be the vehicle for me to do that, which also happens to be an 80s instrument. So it all just kind of fell together where it's a very, there's a lot of 80s influence. I want to say that I'm very grateful for everything I've been through. It's made me the artist I am today. There's been multiple layers to this journey. The first one would be the expectations of what it means to be a Black artist in this space. So many people told me no because I was, loving the 80s. I had a very 80s sound and everyone was like, this is old school. People were telling me to get rid of the Keytar. People were telling me, you have to sound like the future. You can't sound like the past and da-da-da-da. I was, trying to please everyone except myself, where I was writing music that just was not resonating with me, where I would write a reggae song and I write a pop song, then I write a rock song and then a hip hop or whatever, and just trying to please everybody. I've, lived in so many different cities trying to find those opportunities for me, and nothing was ever clicking. The amount of false promises I've been promised, where people promise I'll have a record deal or promise they'll introduce me to the biggest names in the world and all of this stuff. Just been the amount of no's. If I had $1 for every no, I could pay my rent. Actually, I have an excerpt from when I quit music, because it got to the point where around 2020, around COVID. I had been doing it for about a good 5 years at that point of actually hustling and moving and writing and all this stuff. And I said, it's not happening for me and it's just not making any sense. So I literally wrote a letter to music, breaking up with it. And this is an excerpt from it. 2021. So I decided I want to be normal. I'm retiring as an artist for a while. I'm no longer getting any pleasure from playing the piano, singing, or writing, or making songs. I haven't organically written a song in years. I write and write, hoping to make something that will be a hit. I love music too much to squeeze it and force it. The two most important aspects of my life, love and music, are being put on pause, and that's really fucking scary for me because I've never retired or lived without it. But it's the unknown, and I'm actually very happy about it. I'm tired of chasing, and it's been a long time coming. You never know what the future holds, but I love music too much to abuse it anymore. But I honestly want nothing to do with professional music anymore. I'm no longer an artist. I'm just Enjelique. It's just Enjelique. It's really crazy to read that letter. Like, I really do wish I could go back. And I think on some level I knew that I would return to it because I mentioned that, because I said I don't know what the future holds, but I wish I could go back and tell her, hey, you end up doing some really, really cool things in the next, few years. But we're here. Somehow the universe guided me right back to where I needed to be. And, being here in New York, I've already accomplished more than I have in all the time that I've been doing professional music. And we're back on track. So my process of creating music, so I think a lot of people actually use lyrics to guide how they make the music. For me, it's the actual music. So when I produce my tracks, I always find some kind of lead. There's always a lead actor for the song. It's either a bass line, or it's the drum kit itself, or it's a synth line. But that's what drives the song for me, and it creates this theme around it. And then based off of whatever that vibe is, I also have a notes app on my phone, which I think every songwriter does, of every idea they've ever had. And so I just have this list of words and phrases and things that I have over the years. And I'll take the track that I just made, and then I'll take the song and or I'll take the word, and a song will come out of that. So yeah, I will. And usually I will come up with something pretty instantly. I don't tend to go back into songs and years later and write more to it. It's kind of like, if it happens in the next month, then it happens. If it's not clicking in that month for me, I'm like, we're gonna keep going. But who knows? Maybe there's a song from when I was 13 that will pop off, and I'll listen to it and be like, oh yeah, I got a lyric for that. But who knows? So my dream venue to perform is Wembley Stadium in London. My favorite concert of all time is MJ's Bad Tour in 1988. And that was one of the concerts I watched on repeat. And that place is a really special place in my heart. Actually, when I was 18, when I started professional music, I made a Wembley Stadium ticket, and I took off all the previous information, and it was a very nerdy thing to just be taking out, doing computer programming to get my name on the ticket. But I customize it to have it be November 8th, 2020, because I thought in the 5 years, I'm oh yeah, I'll be a massive superstar in 5 years, duh. So I dated it for that day, and I printed it out. I put in a little box and everything, but I still have it. And that's the dream venue. I think also, though, I would love to perform in Africa. And Hollywood Bowl in LA would be really amazing. But I know I would have hit my life goal at Wembley Stadium. The goal for my career is to light as many candles as I can with my own light. I want to create a safe space for all the outcasts, the underdogs, everyone who is tired of stereotypes being put on them, who's tired of their voices not being heard, who's tired of constantly being in pain, being misunderstood, not feeling like they belong. I of course want all of the trappings of what it means to, be one of the biggest artists of the world and have all of those perks. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's about the impact that you have on the culture and what comes on after you. So, Beyonce said it best back in the day. She said, I'm a legend in the making, and that's genuinely how I feel. I want to be like a Tina Turner, and when I retire, I can look back and see a whole generation of women like me, of men like me, of, everyone in between like me that did not let society tell them who they are supposed to be. And especially for the Black culture, I want us to be more open-minded. I want us to be able to break down those barriers of what it means to do Black music. And really just leave that impact and entertain people. I want people to walk away how I feel when I walk away from a concert, which is pure bliss and elevation and inspiration. And your life changes. I know my life changes every time I leave a concert. There's something I take away from it that changes how I feel as a person. And that's, at the end of the day, what I want for every single person who ever listens to my music or enjoys what I do, is to have a moment where they feel accepted and they feel clear on who they are as a person. And of course, it'd be great to meet some of my idols. A lot of my idols have passed now, but Stevie Wonder and Janet and Cher and Madonna, and it'd be incredible to meet some of them. But at the end of the day, my purpose is to ignite souls and have them also ignite other souls and create a chain reaction. So that's what we're working on. So the story of the Keytar. So when I was a kid, I always knew that I didn't want to stay behind the piano. With classical piano, it was great, but I didn't have that ability to express who I was and to rock out. Like I would see these guitarists rocking out and I'm like, why can't I do that? So I would run around talking about, I want to be a rock star, rock star, having no actual way to do that. But just for some reason, I just knew that that's what I want to do. So when I was like 13 and I started to move away from like classical piano and really songwriting and producing and getting into everything, at the objection of my mom and my family, just kind of overall, when I quit, I started moving into the pop direction. I started, writing that kind of music because I was on track to Juilliard. And now I'm like on track to being, trying to be Britney Spears or whatever. Then when I was 16, I walked into a Best Buy with my dad and saw this guy here on display. When they were selling instruments at Best Buy, like I don't believe they did that. Like that's crazy to think that they actually did that. But they used to sell instruments at Best Buy, and this was there, and I had this crazy just epiphany. This is what I've been looking for. Like this is what's going to take me into the stratosphere. I just knew. And I never actually really seen one. I saw probably one from like MJ's Bad tour. They had like a keytarist like in the back like doing his thing. But not like this. And I begged my dad. I said, Dad, please, I need this. I don't know what it is, but I need it. I see it has keys. I can be flexible with it. And he said, okay. And so for my 16th birthday, he got this for me. For the first year, I didn't really know what to do with it. I used it kind of as a synth. I didn't really know how to navigate it. And then when I was around 17, 18, is when I really learned like, oh, it can be a guitar. And like, I don't have to play the guitar to be a rock star. So then 18, I taught myself how to do all the guitar riffs that you see me do. And it's interesting to be a classically trained pianist and a self-taught guitarist. It's a funny dynamic, but then once I got this Keytar, my family was right back on board because they were like, oh, this is like super cool, and this is not your stereotypical pop girl thing. Like now you're becoming this rocker. And even then I still had a lot of developing to do where the whole thing blended together because people were trying to tell me drop the Keytar. I mean, can you imagine me dropping the Keytar? Like I don't know a reality where I would do that, like honestly. So the rest honestly was history. And now every time people see this, they're like, this is the first time I've ever seen it. How did you get into it? So I'm just happy I can document how I even got into it. And the rest is genuinely history.
There's a main bass line that just goes like this. I know something that you don't, that I'm dying inside my little hole. I've got scars across my body, my soul, and you don't even know. I know something that you don't, that my self-esteem barely stays afloat, that the smile that I wear is alone, you don't even know. If you look to the sky, you can see all the lies, see the red in your eyes, and it won't go away, no it won't go away. If you look to the sky, you can see all the lies, see the red in your eyes, and it won't go away, no it won't go away. you, I know something that you don't. I know something that you, I know